Peppers, did you ever think you would get back together with them and that things would be as successful as they are now? If not, how does it feel? Well, it crossed my mind that things were going to happen, but I sort of pretended not to notice. But I suppose most things that have happened to me in my life at some point or another, I was warned that they were going to happen. So nothing is ever surprising to me, but at the same time as you know, at the same time things are. But the thing is, when I would think about it logically, where Anthony and Flea and Chad were at during the period of time that I wasn't in the band, and where I was at, it wouldn't have made logical sense to me that we would ever be on the same page, because their direction in their life seemed so completely on another planet to me. I mean, they just, to me, they seemed very sort of like just going in a meaningless direction and being kind of out of touch, and same thing with Dave Navarro. They just seemed on another planet to me, and I think in my own way I was also out of touch, but in a different way. I was just not a clear version of myself at that period of time, and I think I probably was on a sort of I think I definitely overestimated my own importance in terms of the universe during the period of time that I was on drugs, but that's something that cocaine just does to you, and I was on a lot of cocaine all the time. But I think once I stopped taking drugs, and once they were not playing with Dave Navarro anymore, we seemed to be on the same page of our lives at the same time, even though we had both been through all this other, we had both led completely separate lives for a few years. Somehow we seemed to be on the same page, and that was the only point where my conscious mind would acknowledge, okay, it seems like I'm probably going to be in the Chili Peppers here. And as far as success, I've never made any demands upon fate in terms of that. I just take things as they come. This question is, do you have an utmost favorite guitar track that you love to play more than any other? I guess you mean of my own music. And I thought that instrumental number 1 that was a B-side on the Scar Tissue single, I think that's really good guitar playing of mine, but it's not something that we've ever played again. I guess on guitar, what I get the most enjoyment out of doing from time to time, over and over again, is just to improvise. It's playing songs is fun for a while when you can reinterpret them different ways, but sometimes when you play the same songs over and over for years and years, it starts to become confusing, as far as you feel. You get to a point where you feel like the interesting things you can do to it, you've already kind of done them all. But even then, it sometimes feels that way at the end of a tour, but then a year later you go on tour again and you have a completely new way of approaching it. So that's the way that is. Are there any plans for you to come to England to perform any of your solo stuff in the near future? Not in the near future, but I would definitely love to, once I have some time to, I guess after the cycle of the next Chili Peppers album and tour. I would imagine after that I'll do a proper tour in England. But actually, yeah, I'll definitely come to England at that time if that's what I do, which I think it is. Do you think people downloading music for free or not buying it is as big of a problem as people say? I don't know. I don't know much about the internet, and I really don't have any sort of a definitive opinion on these things. I hear different people with opposite opinions speaking, and a lot of the time they both make sense to me. You know, I hear some people saying that they love record stores a lot, and that if the internet gets too big, then record stores are just going to die out, and that's a pretty horrifying thought to me. But at the same time, I have other friends who say, that whatever way things go, that's the way things go, and people just have to get used to it, and that people will always want to support the bands that they really like, and that the people who are successful, who this supposedly hurts, they already have enough money, and it's kind of silly to be going around defending millionaires because they have only $4 million dollars now instead of $8 million or whatever. To me, that's also a good point, is that who are we really protecting here? People who like independent small bands will always buy albums by those people because it's the people who like that kind of music feel strongly about it, and those are really the bands that need to be supported, and these huge bands like Metallica, so what if they sell, 8 million records instead of 13 million records or whatever? It's not the end of the world, So I actually don't really have my own opinion on these things, but these are things that I've heard people say that did make sense to me, and I've heard a lot of people say things that make no sense to me. Do you plan to play some new stuff with the Peppers on the coming European tour? I would imagine we're only going to do a couple of weeks of rehearsal, so we'll probably have come up with ideas at that point. But the concept of playing a full song, it is possible, but it seems unlikely to me. But I really don't know until we're in there at rehearsal. This question is, can you tell us meanings or inspiration behind some of your new songs? I guess most of these songs on Shadows Collide with People were mostly written out of some kind of happiness, I suppose. There's some exceptions, but I've, in general, I've been pretty happy to be alive last few years, and even when I write sad songs, it seems like they come out of this sort of clear state of mind that comes from basically feeling good about myself and about things. But I guess something like they're probably mostly written out of an interest in music, from listening to music that inspires me, and the direction that it goes emotionally has probably more to do with what chords I'm interested in figuring out something to do with, more so than like minor chords because I'm feeling sad or major chords because I'm feeling happy. But I've, in my life there's been so much extreme sadness. I would say especially during the few years that I wasn't in the band, extreme loneliness or extreme sadness or just extreme complete disconnection from the world, that those emotions are still very much a part of me, and so I think when I write songs, those things go into them. And I think a lot of what I end up writing about in my lyrics has as much to do with the way I was feeling, in 1995 or whatever, as it does with how I'm feeling now. That time is certainly what gives it depth.